Hello guys. In today's video, I will be discussing Epic in comparison to the Odyssey, its flaws, what it does right, and most importantly, its fandom and their flaws and what they do right. So, enjoy the video. So, Epic the Musical is a 9-part concept album retelling the events of the Odyssey in the style of anime and video games and musical theatre. As I stated earlier, it is separated into 9 sagas, which focus on different parts of the Odyssey. So you have the Troy saga, Cyclops saga, Ocean saga, Circe saga, Underworld saga, Thunder saga, Wisdom saga, Vengeance saga, and Ithaca saga, which obviously are different parts of the Odyssey. So you have the sacking of Troy, meeting Polyphemus, the windbag and meeting Poseidon, Circe and that whole incident. You have the prophet Tiresias, you have the sirens, the Telemachy, and then obviously Calypso, and then reuniting at Ithaca. So that's basically what it is. It was created by Jorge Rivera Herrens, but it was the audition process and the process of making it was all on social media such as TikTok and YouTube. So it was free for anyone to audition. The Odyssey is a work attributed to Homer, which I believe is part of the epic cycle focusing on the Trojan War. It is divided into 24 books, and it details some events in epic. Well, obviously it came first before epic, but epic depicts some of the events in it, but changes a lot of the characterization, which I believe is good yet bad. I'll explain that. So in epic, I believe it skips a lot of Odysseus's characterization and makes him a weaker character. It makes him this morally justified character, which he was not in the original Odyssey. In some places he was justified, but in other places he was just trying to survive. And it also skips the Telemachy, which is most of the first 4 books, which focus on Telemachus and his journey to find news of his father. That is skipped over for one really cool fight song, which I will not deny is a great song, but it skips a lot of that characterization and he doesn't get to grow up as a character. In fact, a lot of the fandom infantilizes him as a character. They also skip Nausicaa, which is pretty important to the original Odyssey, in my opinion. It also invents scenes to try and justify Odysseus and all of that. And it kind of, epic uses heavy topics, kind of willy-nilly in my opinion. Lyrically, it is not a great show. Obviously it's a concept album and I'm not holding this against Jorge or any of the crew. Lyrically, a lot of it doesn't make sense. Also the pacing, which again, trying to fit a 24 book poem into 9 albums is difficult, and I think epic's great, but it is flawed. Some of them really do, like Odysseus's rap part in Monster is great, but he gets really out of breath and it's not paced correctly. And Legendary is a great song about kind of wanting, like it's kind of like part of your world from, I think, The Little Mermaid. So the characterization is also quite annoying. Like, original Odysseus doesn't really care. Like, he cares about getting back to his wife and son, but honestly, a lot of his actions at epic have to be justified and have to be fit to a modern standard of morality, which this poem was written 3,000 years ago. But in epic, he does not have relationship with Circe, which it suits the story of epic. But even in the original Odyssey, he doesn't cheat. Yes, he has relations with her, but the standards back then are different to the standards today, which I think epic completely misses. Now, I keep bringing him up, but Telemachus, most of his character development is skipped. Yes, he is often infantilized by both the fandom and even in the story. Calypso is also treated quite differently. Like, obviously, again, the standards of ancient Greek and ancient Greek mythology are completely different, but in epic, her actions seem to be forgiven. Like, I'm not sorry for loving you. Like, Odysseus does say he loves her, but it still feels like she's forgiven immediately, and she doesn't feel like a threat when she is, I think, the daughter of a titan. Penelope doesn't have as much agency as she does in the original. In the original, she's quite a strong character. I believe the word Homeric word for queen came from the Odyssey, but correct me if I am wrong on that. She's more of a motive, like, and then Kirke is, her characterization's weak. She falls on tropes. She's not built on, like, her tropes aren't built on. She's just tropey, which is quite annoying. Like, if you want a good story, Kirke by Madeline Miller or Circe by Madeline Miller is great. And I've said my negatives, but here are the positives. While the characterization is quite different, it's quite consistent. And I do like that they build on characters who didn't do much in the original story. Like, I think it's Polites is the main example. He does not do much. And that, look, lyrically, some of the show doesn't make sense, but it is also great. It has great motifs. Like, there are certain lines that don't make sense, but there is emotion in them. A lot of, I think Eurylochus's part in Mutiny is really great. And I like how in Suffering, Penelope's instrument is replaced with another person important to Odysseus. And also lyrically, the motifs, like the waiting, all I hear is screams, full speed ahead, and ruthlessness and mercy. And the whole show is built on the theme of ruthlessness in correlation to mercy, which is great. And then, I know earlier I said, oh, it's not a faithful adaptation, but it is not a faithful adaptation. And while I like faithful adaptations, it builds on its characters. It does something I don't think other adaptations do. Like, even Kirke's a great adaptation, but sometimes it falls flat. Like, Madeline Miller's work sometimes fall flat. Epic falls flat, but it's still great. I don't know how to word what I'm thinking. In the original Odyssey, Odysseus referred to, and please forgive my pronunciation, Pelothropos. I think it translates roughly to man of many ways, or as Emily Wilson would put it, complicated man. And in Epic, he is morally complicated in a way we have not seen. Sometimes that falls flat because the standards of ancient Greece are different to the modern standards, which I feel like Epic focuses more on like, you can modernize the Odyssey. I have no issue with that. I feel like that would be a great story to have it slightly more modern, and I'm sure there are many other stories than just Madeline Miller's that do that. But I feel like in Epic, sometimes, like in Just a Man and Monster and 600 Strike, it doesn't work. And I feel like I love Polites as a character. He's great in the show, but honestly, he didn't get that, he gets more development than in the original, but he still is just flat and doesn't feel like a character. He feels like a character of the best friend character. And in writing, I feel like that isn't great because he's part of a crew and he believes in peace. That is one of his things. He believes this life is amazing, but he's also been part of a war, and that could be a coping mechanism. We could explore that, but he's just there to be like, this life is amazing when you greet it with open arms. But like, that's all he does, and I feel kind of disappointed. And I keep going back to Penelope and Telemachus because they are so misused in this story. Fandom is where I don't like Epic. The fandom are quite obsessive. They treat Jorge like he's a lyrical genius. Like, he can't do any wrong. Epic is not a great show. You are allowed to enjoy it. There is a difference between liking something and thinking it's great. But another thing I also think is that this particularly happens with Miko, they can't separate the character from the person who plays him. Miko is his own singer, and he still gets comments about it on other interviews he does, and I think he has stated he wants to be separate from Epic, and that is okay. Like, obviously he did a great job, but he is also his own singer, and a great singer at that one, in my opinion. I feel like as a fandom they need to calm down and learn that Epic is different from the Odyssey, different from other interpretations, and that's okay. It's allowed to be different, but different doesn't make it better. That's all I wanted to discuss in this video. Thank you all for watching, and I am sorry if at any point I didn't make sense. I would be willing to clarify in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day or night, and I will see you in another video.